Welcome into Bengals Breakdown by Chat Sports. I am Tom Downey. If you want more free Bengals videos, we have to prove to my bosses that we can do them. So like today's video so I can take it and say, look at all these people that like the video. They want more vids. Training camp's almost here. We're making up for the brief break we took during kind of 4th of July time. So help me out, help you out. Like today's video right now. We're going to have some fun on today's Bengals Breakdown. We're looking at 5 blockbuster trade targets for the Bengals before training camp. Are they super likely? Nah, maybe not. That's why they're blockbuster, but they are fun. Let's begin with Chase Young. And it's kind of a rhyme. I apologize. The Commanders did not pick up Young's 5th-year option, and he's been mentioned pretty heavily as a trade target since then, as someone that the Commanders could shop, could go out, look for deals, and the Bengals, maybe because it's the Ohio State kid, have been linked to him as a result. The reason why his option got declined, he was very good as a rookie. 7.5 sacks, like, okay, Chase Young looks like that guy that's going to be awesome, going to be a superstar, pass rusher, whatever. And then in 12 games played since then, 2 sacks. That is it. He has simply not produced, especially for what his contract is this year and what it would have been had they picked up the 5th-year option. Now, the Bengals, again, we talked about Chase Young because they've been linked to him all speculatively. They have Trey Hendrickson. They have Sam Hubbard. They have Myles Murphy. They have Joseph Asai. I don't know if edge is really the biggest need for this Bengals team defensive end, but it is Chase Young. Maybe you could get him back to form, and if you were to maybe move on from Hubbard and or Hendrickson, a Young-Murphy duo would be really intriguing long-term, or even keep one of those guys and go with a full 3-man rotation. The number one issue of why a trade might not happen, why it probably won't happen, we'll go through these for all the players today, is the value of what Chase Young is worth to the Commanders right now. Former 2nd overall pick. Ron Rivera's probably on the hot seat. They would like to find a way to keep him on the team and win football games and say, okay, now we got to pay you next offseason. Versus that value, that potential value, versus what he's currently worth, when Young really hasn't done that much in the past couple seasons, that is a stark difference in terms of the Young value, the Bengals value. That's not a one-to-one alignment. So whatever the Bengals would be willing to pay for Chase Young, which I think is like a 4th, I get former 2nd-round pick, kind of expensive, no production for 2 years, injured the past couple seasons. That value is fairly low. What the Commanders might want, isn't it like 2 seconds? Could they be crazy and say, we want a 1st-rounder? I don't know. Maybe. I think that gap makes it a bit complicated for a trade to go down. Now, trade deadline, this could be a name to absolutely revisit for the Bengals and for the Commanders. So would you trade for Chase Young? I know there are many Ohio State fans watching. I grew up in Ohio, after all. I know how it is. Would you trade for Chase Young? It is today's pinned comment, so if that ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and vote. Y for yes, N for no. Josh Jacobs is next up. Once again, blockbuster. Big names. We're not doing the boring names. Jacobs is threatening to hold out from the Raiders over his contract extension, tag, situation, whatever we want to call it there. Last 4 years for Jacobs, he wasn't that great in 2022. Great in 2022. Wasn't very good in 2021 and 2020. The exact opposite of what I said there briefly. Really good in 2019. Jacobs, it's very clear what's going on here. He wants to get paid. And how can I blame him? The running back market is not very good. Jacobs was the NFL's leading rusher at almost 5 yards per carry on a 340-yard sample size. That is incredible. He is a better player right now than Joe Mixon. That is not anti-Joe Mixon takes, propaganda, slander, whatever. That's just the reality. That Josh Jacobs, at this stage of his NFL career, is a better football player than Joe Mixon. But the problem you run into here, even if you cut Joe Mixon and you save $10 million and you bring in Josh Jacobs, you're basically swapping out players, no real cost there. Short term, Jacobs wants a long-term deal. So are you going to pay him that? Should you pay him that when you have bigger, more impactful players and positions to pay? Higgins, Chase, Burrow, etc. And the draft pick compensation too. Like, I don't know if the Raiders really want to take on Joe Mixon's deal. If they do, hey, 1-to-1 swap, awesome. That seems wildly unlikely. That balancing of Jacobs is great. Should we be investing in a running back if we're the Bengals? I'm not so sure. Now, what you can be investing in, some Bengals hats. They are on sale up to 40% off at chatsports.com/Bengals hats. That includes the t-shirt hat combo pack. That is the best available deal, I believe, on Fanatics. It's fantastic price. You're actually going to save some money there. That one's about 40% off right now. If you like the Joe Burrow style headband, you can get one as well. The link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. It's chatsports.com/Bengals hats. Get yours today and make sure you are repping the Bengals as well. Kyle Pitts, and this is my favorite one on the list because it's just a really fun idea for the Bengals. He has been I will use the word hopeful trade target for many teams and fan bases, basically anyone who doesn't have an elite tight end. Like, what if we could get Kyle Pitts, right? He would thrive with Joe Burrow. Imagine a grouping of Burrow and Pitts and Higgins and Chase, and damn, that is awesome. Now, Pitts' touchdown numbers have not been very good. He was banged up and wasn't featured much in the offense because, to be quite honest, folks, Marcus Mariota was bad. He was bad last year at quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. Then Pitts got hurt. But he was a 1,000-yard receiver as a rookie at tight end. And that is borderline unheard of. And the Bengals, when you look at what they have right now in their tight end room, it's Irv Smith, Bruce Sample, Evan Asiasi, Tanner Hudson. You put Kyle Pitts in this offense with Joe Burrow, with Chase, Higgins, Tyler Boyd. That is the best offense in the NFL, full stop. The problem is, why would the Falcons do this? The Falcons and head coach Arthur Smith with quarterback Desmond Ridder, Drake London, they envision that being their long-term core. Ridder, not sure I buy that one. Sorry, Bearcat fans. But hey, see what he does this year. London, Pitts, it's a really talented trio, if maybe not a proven grouping. And Pitts and London are supposed to be the guys for this team long-term. Now, whether or not they get there immediately, we'll see. But the Falcons want to win football games right now. They don't have – is Jonnu Smith the guy at tight end? I don't think so after what he did for the Patriots this past year. The Falcons, with where they view their franchise, have no real reason to shop and trade Kyle Pitts for anything less than a massive, unrealistic haul. And I actually like Pitts' fits with the Bengals because he is cheap for a few more years. He's young. You would be able to balance a potential Pitts-Higgins-Chase extension. Now, maybe it could cost you T. Higgins long-term in terms of just, you swap it out contract-wise, but Pitts is kind of put hit for another 2 years, basically. You would be able to structure that properly. I would love Kyle Pitts in Cincinnati. It's probably the least likely of this group, I think. So name a player, you can keep it realistic or go full blockbuster too, who you guys want to trade for. Drop that player name or player names, you're being an overachiever on today's show, in the comment section for me right now. Who do you want to trade for? Let's go back to defense. Then we'll go to offense for the 5 trades here. Budda Baker. We mentioned him a little bit in the past here. Requested a trade for the Cardinals. Did not give him a big new contract, which I understood what was going on there for Budda Baker. He wanted to get an extension. He wants to be among the highest paid players at a position. And he's awesome. Baker's a really good football player. 111 tackles this past year, 2 sacks, 3 INTs back in 2021. He's been a tackling machine, big play guy, can hang around the box. I do think, by the way, for this Bengals roster, I think it'd be an awesome fit alongside Daxton Hill. I think it'd be a really fun grouping to pair up with Nick Scott or Jordan Battle could still be your safety 3. Maybe you get creative and ship out Battle as part of the deal since, Baker and Hill are going to be your long-term safeties at that point there. Interesting situation to consider for the Bengals. Here's the issue you run into. Once again, it's money-focused. The Bengals did not pay Jessie Bates, and they were never that close to paying him versus what Bates wanted and what the market said he was going to get and what he did get in the end, by the way. So would they then trade for Budda Baker, give up a premium draft, maybe it's a second-round pick, whatever it ends up being, and then pay him even more than what Jessie Bates got? Budda Baker right now is making under $15 million per year. He's got 2 more years left on his contract. He wants to get Minkah Fitzpatrick, Derwin James money. That is more than what Jessie Bates got from the Falcons when they signed him away from the Bengals. I have a tough time seeing Cincinnati saying, yes, we're going to go expensive at safety and pay more than we would not pay Jessie Bates. Seems unlikely. If you guys have not already subscribed, please do so. You get more free Bengals videos when you hit that big sub button. 4,000 subs is the next one. I want to do some preseason watch parties, but we got to get more subscribers to make that happen. Hit that sub button right now. Finally, Quenton Nelson, the last player on our list. It's a fun one, right? The Colts are in a rebuilding stage. Nelson, frankly, wasn't actually that good, or at least as good as his previous seasons and campaigns. And the Bengals always need to line up an offensive line of Orlando Brown and Quenton Nelson. That's a lot of fun on the left side. So of the 5 guys we discussed on today's show, more on Quenton Nelson coming up. Who would you rather trade for? CY for Chase Young, JJ for Josh Jacobs, KP for Kyle Pitts, BB for Budda Baker, or QN for Quenton Nelson? Go pick one to trade for in the comments right now. Let's move to then more on Nelson here. The 5 sacks he allowed last year was more than his entire career combined entering the season. He wasn't as good. Now, the quarterback play was bad. Matt Ryan was basically a statue. If he got hit, it was going down. It was a mess. The coaching staff got fired. Jeff Saturday was more concerned about trying to get hired than win games. It was a disaster in Indy. You would expect a bounce back year. The offensive line of Orlando Brown, Quenton Nelson on that left side, it's a really, really good duo over there. But the issue, right, why maybe it's a bit unlikely it ends up happening for Nelson and for the Bengals and Colts. He's expensive. That is a red flag for Cincinnati because you just paid so much to Brown and you paid a lot to Alex Kappa. Why would the Colts trade away their best offensive line? They're trying to rebuild, retool around Anthony Richardson. In general, you typically don't see NFL franchises draft a quarterback in round 1 and say, you know what we should do is make his offensive line worse. So I've seen speculation, not just from the Bengals, but from other franchises of like, why don't we trade for Quenton Nelson? Well, I have a tough time seeing the Colts being willing to go out and acquire him or move on from him at that. It just doesn't seem like a likely outcome for Indy. And that's why, as fun as it is, I'm not going to get my hopes up.